debated or voted on, so you can't hold any legislator in the House of Representatives responsible for the fact that it's still legal for your public library to give porn to your children. So after this thing gets approved by the second chamber, if they don't make any amendments, it goes right out. If not, it goes to a conference committee. Conference committee can make some changes to the bill, send it back to both chambers who can then approve it, or they cannot approve it. If they approve it, it goes to your governor. Everybody likes to think the governor has all kinds of power. I got to tell you, we have one of the weakest governor situations the state of Indiana there is. If the governor vetoes a bill, it goes right back to the chambers, and with a simple majority vote, they can override him. Mm-hmm. So when somebody says we had to do this, or the governor was going to get mad at us, you should look at your legislator. It doesn't matter if he gets mad at him. He doesn't have the ability to do anything about this. You can do any law you want to, and the governor can't stop you in the state of Indiana. So remember that, ladies and gentlemen, when you're talking to your legislature about what he could and he couldn't have done. He never gets to get out of this by saying the governor doesn't want it, because he doesn't have to give the governor anything in the state of Indiana. Now, let's go over this process and where things break down, all right? And as we're doing this, remember, we are not doing with the idea that we need to yell and get mad at a legislator, all right? So the first thing you know is about every legislator who goes into the legislature is very worried that he is going to get a primary challenge. And ladies and gentlemen, it was not very long ago we had two very, very freedom-minded, good legislators who proposed all kinds of great legislation, tried to get them through. One of them, the Republican, he was a Republican incumbent, and the Republican Party spent money to pay somebody to fight him in the primary and defeat him. And his colleague who worked with him in the House, they had a gerrymandering that got him out of there. So remember that these guys are primarily scared, and I can tell you when I have discussed these rules changes with legislators, the primary thing I see on their face is fear. And what they're afraid of is that lobbyists coming after them in the primary with campaign cash. So why does this system have a problem? So right now you have to understand the theory of government. We elect a representative and a senator, and the power we give him is the power to make a new bill. And right now, he's got the power we gave him to make law, and what he does is he walks into the legislature and he gives away our power for free. And he does that by voting for the rules of the chamber. And those rules of the chamber are changed by a simple majority vote, but the way those rules are written right now, his power is given away to the President Pro Tem of the Senate and the Speaker of the House. That President Pro Tem gets to choose the committee chairman. It's good to be the committee chairman. First of all, you get to kind of move up and you get some promotions through the legislature, get a lot of rubbing shoulders with people who can give out campaign cash, get bills. You can actually, if you can get your bill assigned to your committee, you can make sure it gets a hearing and you have control over all the things that happen to it. But there's a problem with this process, and that is the committee chairman serves at the pleasure of the Speaker of the House and the President Pro Tem, who can yank their committee chairmanship anytime they want. A couple years ago, there was actually 10 senators who decided that the President Pro Tem wasn't doing a very good job. 3 of them were committee chairmen. So they actually voted to remove the President Pro Tem from his position. Do you want to take a guess how many of those 3 people who voted to remove the President Pro Tem from his position remained as committee chairman? It's a very round number, that's right. They're all stripped of their committee chairmanship. So when you're the committee chairman and you're looking to decide bills or not, what you're asking is the Speaker of the House and the President Pro Tem going to remove me from my committee chairmanship? You are not beholden in any way to the members of that committee who put you there. So you want to get a bill out of here, you've got to have somebody go to the Speaker of the House and the President Pro Tem and say, can we get it out of there? Now, everybody starts to get the idea, well, I think the problem is that nasty Speaker of the House and the President Pro Tem, those dirt balls. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's not how it is either, because you got to remember, the only reason you get to be the Speaker of the House and President Pro Tem is that the people in your chamber vote to put you there. So the President Pro Tem and the Speaker of the House are actually the front guys for the entire chamber. They're the fall guy when things don't work right, and they are used for that so that you can actually hide from your constituents when you are caught between them and the lobbyists. And I want people to understand, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a case of some mustache-twirling villain of a legislator. You have a scared man who says, God, I cannot run for my office to do any of the good things I want to do without campaign cash, and I am really afraid that people who don't have any idea how the system works are going to do anything to support me, and so I have to make sure the lobbyists like me. But I have to make sure you guys don't know what I didn't do, or you'll come after me. So breaking that down requires a couple changes. That's why one of the changes we want is to make it so the committee chairmen are chosen by and serve at the pleasure of the committee themselves. Now guys, remember, changing these rules is a simple majority vote by your legislator. He can't go in there and say, well, I didn't change the rules because the speaker said I couldn't. It's like, no, you can always do that. You just vote to change the rules. Simple majority vote of the chamber changes the rules. There's some benefits from this. It makes it so the committee chairman is actually no longer serving the Speaker of the House and the President Pro Tem. He's serving the people on his committee now, which means if the people on the committee are starting to look bad to you and me, they go to the committee chairman and say, hey, Jack, that bill needs a hearing, all right? You're going to make me look bad for my constituents. It also makes it so that your committee members can't dodge responsibility if they've got an obstructionist chairman. That's actually the least important change. This one right here, I think, is probably the most important change. And that is to create something called a discharge petition. So right now, when you file a bill, there's not much you can do but file a bill. But if we had a change in the rules that created a discharge petition with your bill, that would be something that if it's signed by 40% of the committee or 40% of the chamber as a whole, the committee chairman is obligated to give it a hearing. He doesn't have a choice anymore. What does that do? Well, that just means that your legislature took back the power to create bills away from the committee chairman and away from the Speaker and the President Pro Tem, and he took it back to himself to act on your benefit. So let's say you got a committee chairman who's pretty good, but he's got one bee in his bonnet about this one bill and he doesn't want it to go through there. It's like, well, that's okay. We can overcome you, sir. We're just all going to sign the discharge petition. You have to give our bill a hearing, but we don't have to remove you from power. You can still be committee chairman because you're good at everything else. But the major thing it does, it allows you to hold every legislator in the chamber and on the committee responsible for what they don't do. So if you guys don't know this, there are a couple legislators who are a little bit deceitful. They'll go file a bill they know you like because they plan on coming back to you at election time and saying, I filed a bill for you. Let's see this bill I filed, it's a great bill. Of course, I knew the committee chairman was going to kill the son of a gun when I do the thing, but hey, it's good for lobbying to you when it comes election time. But if there's a discharge petition, he can't do that. He files that bill, you say, oh, well, did you have your name on the discharge petition? Oh, you didn't. You filed a bill, you didn't put your own name on the discharge petition, then you didn't file that bill sincerely at all. You never intended it to get out of there. And just as importantly, let's say your legislator isn't on the committee, so he doesn't get that thing out of committee. Oh, now he does. Because you can go to him and say, well, I didn't have anything to do with that. I wasn't on that committee. Oh yeah, you could. You could sign the discharge petition. Did you sign the discharge petition? Because we have a written record. Oh, your name's not there, Mr. Legislator. And now I can hold you accountable the fact that you didn't do that. The other thing you need to know is what happens as we are going through debates on this, and this has happened a couple times. In fact, several years ago, there was a legislator, John Jacobs, proposed that we should actually have on a health care bill that was coming through the legislature, proposed we should put an amendment on that to say, hey, it's not legal to have a vaccine mandate in the state of Indiana. Excuse me, a vaccine passport. And so he proposed this amendment on second reading. Could have been if he had been on the committee, he could have proposed it on the committee. This is the kind of thing that's not real good to vote on if you're a legislator, because there's a lot of lobbyists who really want to have vaccine passports. There's a lot of money behind vaccines. So another legislator stood up and said, well, I object to us even debating his amendment. They call this a procedural objection. You can do procedural objections for all kinds of reasons. You can procedurally object because you think it's not germane to the bill. You can say, well, we've got that language in another bill. You can actually procedurally object to the fact that you don't like the legislator's necktie. But whenever you object to his amendment, right now the way that decision is made is the Speaker of the House calls up the guy who's got the bill, the guy who objected to debating it, And he has the majority leader and the minority leader come up, and they all discuss in private here and stuff you can't see, and it's not recorded. Then they all go sit back down, and the president pro tem or the Speaker of the House or the committee chairman will issue a ruling. And when he says, I sustain the objection, that amendment is not going to get debated, and it will not be voted on. And you will never be able to hold your legislator accountable for the fact that this thing got killed. So we propose there is a different way that these rules should be changed to handle a procedural objection. We think if somebody stands up and says, I don't like Senator so-and-so's necktie, we should not entertain his amendment, we should not be on his bill. That procedural objection is immediately decided by a record vote of the committee or the chamber. Which means if you're going to vote to kill this bill or this amendment so that I can't get done what the people want done, you're going to put your name on it. And that way we can hold you accountable for it. And the last thing we want to do is to make sure that what never happens again for anything going on in a legislature is that there is anything on a bill that is not decided by a record vote. How many people know what a division vote or a voice vote is? There weren't enough hands going up, so we got some education to do here. So in a voice vote, the committee chairman or the Speaker of the House will go, all in favor say aye. All against say nay. You know I heard more ayes, therefore it passes. And that means the only guy you can hold responsible for that is the guy who listened to the ayes and nays, the committee chairman or the Speaker of the House. Which means that you can have your legislature come to you and say, boy, I supported that bill. Of course, I said nay. And there's nothing you can do about it because you can have him responsible for that. Our response is that every single bill action, whether it's to table the bill, whether it's to postpone debate on the bill, whether it's to pass the bill or amend the bill, all should require a record vote. Meaning that you're going to put your name on it, we get to see, did you say yay or nay? And ladies and gentlemen, there are a lot of these things that happen just by voice vote. Now, it should be mentioned that when somebody has a voice vote, or there's this other way of making sure you vote without having a recording called division voting, and when you do that, the legislator always has the choice to challenge the ruling of the chair. So, let's say the chair rules we're not going to debate your bill. You can raise your hand and stand up and say, I challenge the ruling of the chair. And if one of the legislators says, I second his motion, then you actually have to have a record vote. But you know what happens if you do that? You stand up and say, no, I'm going to make my colleagues in this legislature actually be responsible and vote on this bill. The lobbyist is writing down, okay, so who's getting the campaign cash going against them at the next one? Oh, that guy, he's getting axed. And if you think that your legislator is not frightened of that, you're wrong. But if you had these rules changes, now the lobbyist can't divide and conquer your legislator. Because when that guy stands up and says, I'm going to object to debating this bill, it's like, dude, we all got to put our name on that. Our rules say we have to put our name on that. And you're going to find a lot of these goofy objections that prevent debate go away because the whole idea of this was to allow a legislator to escape from the threat of the lobbyists. And with these 4 rules changes, which your legislator can actually has as much power as any Speaker of the House, President Pro Tem, any committee chairman. He has the power to make this happen. He can't do it away to the governor. Rules changes are not reviewable by the Supreme Court. The rules of the Senate are not vetoable by the House. All right? The governor doesn't get to veto rules changes. So your legislator can say, hey, I want this process changed, and nobody can stop it. And ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand that most of the reason this is not happening, when you become a legislator, you go into the legislature and on your very first day, you go to something called orientation day, when you are taught how the system works. You hobnob with these guys and you get told, look, if you want this to happen, you got to make Senator so-and-so bad. He's in a tough election, doesn't really want to be put out there to get caught between the campaign cash guys and the constituents. He needs to hide from this vote. You better get him through, talk with that. This bargaining and horse trading starts to happen because it can all happen in a way that they're not accountable for. But most of them are doing it only because this is the only way they have ever known. This crony capitalist, unaccountable mess is what they've been taught. And I can tell you, I know that because I talked to the 2 guys in the House Representative Jacobs, when his amendment got shot down, I said, hey, did you ever think about challenging the ruling of the chair? And his colleague who supported him, they all said, no, we didn't think about that. Because they've been taught not to do that. What we want to do is say, no, your accountability should be greater. We understand that right now you are frightened of the lobbyist, and you should be. We have ignored you as our legislator, what you're trying to do for the longest period of time. We have ignored how the process works. We have not taken an interest in this. But if you can go to your legislator and say, I want the rules changes of the Citizens Coalition for Legislature Accountability passed, and if I don't see you do that, I want to have your back. This makes it so the lobbyists can't divide you up and conquer you anymore. You're all going to have to take responsibility for it. You can't give away the power that I give you as a constituent to make law to somebody else. And you have to hold your colleagues in the legislature accountable through these rules changes. We want to have your back. But if you don't, we have to take your flank. But we really want to have your back. I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I get to talk with a lot of legislators, and I can tell you there is probably about 10% of them who will happily do things for financial aggrandizement that help them. And there is probably another 15 or 20% who really want to get the good things done. And I can tell you there is a great many more who sit around terrified of doing anything because they know they can hide. A lot of times they don't even consciously know that's what they're doing. So we first of all have to show them that we have taken the initiative to learn how a legislature works and how it malfunctions. They've got to understand that, and then we've got to tell them we have a solution to this problem. We can't just get nasty with them and yell at them. So I will beg you, ladies and gentlemen, to go to the website of fixmylegislature.com. That is actually the website where we are trying to do the educational work to get people to understand how a legislature works and how it malfunctions. You can email us at citizenscoalition@proton.me. We will actually take your name and email address if you want, and we will actually help put out things when we are going to send email and text campaigns to let our legislators know that we are learning about this and we are doing about this. Any group can join the CCLA, your local PTA. Your local city council can pass a resolution supporting these rules changes. Stand for Health Freedom, American Family Association, all of them can join us in reforming our legislative rules so that these things actually leave our legislators more accountable to us. And remember, as they become accountable to us, they have become less accountable to a lobbyist. And we have to give them that.